What's up, guys? Mark here at Wired Customs. Just pulled into the house and I feel I need to make another little segment here on electrical and how important electrical is. I understand, in my experience, a lot of people do not like to put any money towards electrical. And I understand why. Because it's not your amplifier, it's not your radio, it's nothing that you're sticking your hands on and messing with. However, just like a DSP is very important, you don't ever look at your DSP. You as the customer never tunes it. You probably shouldn't tune it because it takes years of experience to understand a DSP. But it's a product that your electrical is one of the most important parts. So imagine your house and the power it takes to run your house, right? And to have everything working properly. And then imagine giving your house half the power. Imagine how your products in the house, your refrigerator, your TV, your PlayStation, your stove. Imagine cooking and the stove getting told it can only run at half the power. Great analogy, actually. Imagine that. Imagine, one, is it going to cook right? Is it going to get hot enough to cook properly? Is it going to take way longer? Could you run the ability of improperly cooking the food? Yes, you can. Absolutely can. Just like with an amplifier, if you're not giving it the proper electrical, you run the risk of damaging equipment. Your amplifier, a normal amplifier, normal operating range is, generally speaking, between 11 and 15, depending upon the amplifier. But when your car is turned on, the alternator, generally speaking, again, will start out 13 to 14 and a half as an average. Normally it's around 14 and a half, but some of these newer cars, like the new Silverados, they like to stay 13.2, 13.3 from the factory. What people want to do is say they want it to be decently loud, so they're going to run 2 to 3,000 watts as an average. To properly run 2 to 3,000 watts, you really, one, need an alternator, a high output alternator, 220 amps to 300 amps. It takes power to create power. If you do not have the power there, it can't properly create the power. So at that point, it's kind of counterproductive for you to try to run 3K if you have a stock alt and no battery power to help support that. You would have been better off running half the power. Running a 1,500 watt amplifier could hopefully keep up with it. Because again, that amplifier is never going to create the potential that it has unless it's given the proper amount of input power. And low voltage is horrible for amplifiers. One, it prematurely induces clipping, and clipping is what smokes speakers. Clipping and distortion. Distortion is a form of clipping. All these cars that you get into in here, and they turn it up to a certain level, and past that level, it starts to distort and not sound like it just was. That is distortion and likely clipping. Clipping burns speakers up. Mids and highs, tweeters, all speakers. And then you'll start to smell a burning smell, and that's your coil on your speaker that's cooking. And it could be your door speakers cooking, your 210s, your 212s, your 115, your 112. That's the speaker's coil is getting too hot, and it's going to go past its thermal limits, and then that's why you'll have a speaker blow out. Over half of the time when a speaker has an issue, it is due to low voltage. Because what a lot of people will do is they'll get in their car here and they'll turn it all the way up. And they'll turn it past the point of clipping. One, because they don't realize it. They haven't been educated properly. Or they just are turning it up too high. And a lot of people, in my experience, they will go to a party or they'll be demoing for a friend, and they'll know that they're turning it up way too high for too long of a duration of time, and then they'll have a problem. And then the honest customer will come to you and say, hey, I blew my stuff out, I need to get it repaired. And they'll tell me it's not your fault, and they will pay for it. That's the right thing to do. Normally when that happens, we'll charge the customer straight cost and pay some labor to repair it and be on about their way. But if you cooked the coil, I know what happened. It's not anything that happens under normal circumstances. But back to the electrical portion of this. If 3K really needs at least a couple of batteries and an alternator, or anything more than that needs at least that or more. If you don't have that, you do absolutely need it, because we don't want to run the risk of you damaging equipment. When you damage equipment, no matter whose fault it is, at the end of the day, it looks like it's my fault because I put it in. Just 2 weeks ago, a customer brought us his equipment. We put it in. I recommended an alternator and a battery. He did the alternator. However, his battery was on its last leg. He was on his way home. His battery had an issue, and then he smoked his speakers. Why? Low voltage. Perfectly normal thing to happen. If your battery goes out and you're playing it, you're going to have a bad problem. And you're going to know it pretty quickly. Just wasn't educated properly, or just didn't care. He was educated properly because I recommended him on what to do, and he declined the battery. At that point, my hands are tied. I tried to help you out, and I can only help so much. So, takes power to make power, guys. Please. And oxygen-free wire. There's a lot of stuff on the internet that's true, and a lot more info that is not true. If you have the option to run oxygen-free wire or copper-clad aluminum, it should be a no-brainer to choose oxygen-free wire. You're spending a lot of money for what you're purchasing. Why half-ass it? Why you wouldn't go to your house and put in copper-clad aluminum in your house in the late 70s, because they knew that was a problem. The wire gets hotter quicker. That is a known issue. The wire gets hotter quicker. The longer the wire, the more it heats up at a quicker rate. It's just what it is. Copper-clad aluminum costs around half as what oxygen-free cable does, but there's a reason why. It is true copper wire. So just something to think about. Your electrical is very important. Electrical is even more important if you have an ATV, a Harley. All that stuff is super important. Thanks for watching, guys.